Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present an overview of the Sustainability Update project and gather some feedback and answer some questions. My name is Stephanie Hansen. I'm an Assistant Director in the newly formed Community Development and Infrastructure Department, which is a merger of the Planning and Public Works Departments. Before we get started with today's presentations, a few introductions. The project team consists of county staff, specifically the Community Development and Infrastructure Department's Sustainability and Special Projects Division, who have prepared the draft documents that make up this project. Myself, Anais Shank, Annie Murphy, Daisy Allen, and Natisha Williams are on this team, and Daisy will be helping me present tonight. Along the way, we've had a lot of feedback and support from other county divisions and departments as well. The design guidelines were a joint effort between our staff and our consultant, MIG Inc. The EIR is being prepared by another consultant, Dudek, and we have a transportation consultant called Kimley Horn that has done our traffic modeling for us. You can reach anybody on the team by writing to the email shown on this slide at sustainabilityupdate@santacruzcounty.us. Before we get started with the meeting agenda, here's some logistical information. Today's meeting is being recorded, and the recording for this meeting as well as subsequent meetings will be available on the project website in both English and Spanish. We'll have a 35 to 40-minute presentation tonight, followed by question and answers for the remainder of the meeting time. If you have access to a computer with a microphone, you can watch, listen, and provide comments through your computer using the Teams meeting link. If you do not have access to a computer with a microphone and wish to ask a question or make comments, you must call in by dialing 916-318-9542. When prompted, enter the conference ID 366-207-612#. We can then we can provide this information in the chat. And if you are participating by phone, you must also mute the sound on your computer. All participants are currently muted and the meeting chat is disabled during the presentation. Please remain muted and hold your questions until the end of the presentation. If you have a comment about something specific that we've covered in the slides, we can pull the slides back up to guide our discussion. At the end of the presentation, we'll explain how to ask questions and make comments. Today's presentation will consist of a review of the background and vision for this project, followed by a discussion of project components, discussion of various project topic areas, and an overview of the environmental impact report components and review plan. We'll also discuss the project schedule and different ways to participate, and we'll open up the meeting for public comments. First of all, what is the sustainability update? This project has four main components: amendments to the county's general plan, which includes our local coastal program, amendments to the county code, new county design guidelines, and amendments to land use and zoning maps. We'll discuss each of these project components in more detail in this presentation. The Sustainability Update project has several key goals. First, the project components in the sustainability the project implements the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, a planning study that was accepted by the Board of Supervisors in 2014. Second, the project aims to update, streamline, and modernize the zoning code and other related code sections. The project also addresses projected growth. Santa Cruz County, like all California jurisdictions, is required under state planning law to plan for and accommodate a certain amount of population, housing, and economic growth. So this update of the general plan anticipates a 20-year planning horizon from 2020 to 2040. Finally, consistency with newly adopted county plans and new state legislation also informs the project. Planning law requires jurisdictions to reflect and be consistent with a variety of state laws, as well as with regional plans developed for the area. And if the jurisdiction is located near the coast, the California Coastal Act. At the local level, the project is consistent with the county's strategic plan, climate action strategy, economic vitality strategy, Parks Department strategic plan, and the current Department of Public Works capital improvement program. Also, the county's long-range facility plan and the county design criteria. The project is also consistent with the newly released draft active transportation plan for Santa Cruz County. At the regional level, the project is consistent with the Association of Monterey Bay Government Sustainable Communities Plan, as well as the Regional Transportation Commission's Regional Transportation Plan. At the state level, the project is consistent with recent legislation, including SB 375 Sustainable Communities, AB 1358 Complete Streets, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and current state requirements for general plans, which now include an environmental justice element or requirements per SB 1000 and related laws. Additionally, the project is consistent with the California Coastal Act and the California Coastal Commission Strategic Plan. We wanted to share some background on the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan. If you weren't involved in that project, it was a public visioning exercise focused mostly on new development within the county's coastal urban area, and particularly our higher growth areas of Live Oak and Soquel. The plan was accepted by the Board of Supervisors as a planning study in October 2014. Development of the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan involved intensive public participation. A series of 16 community workshops were held throughout the county between 2012 and 2014. Topics for community meetings included both overall visioning and plans for certain focus areas in the county's urban area. There was also advisory groups, business involvement, and many stakeholder interviews. The results of these meetings was a vision for urban development in Santa Cruz County and guiding principles to achieve that vision. These guiding principles, which have been carried over into the amended general plan, include focused development, transportation choices, open space and resource preservation, unique community character, economic vitality, housing options, equity and inclusive decision-making, governmental coordination, and fiscal responsibility. The Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan also resulted in recommendations for land use and transportation. These key recommendations included concentrating infill development within the urban services line, near transportation corridors and high activity areas, developing a multimodal transportation network, updating development review to consider vehicle miles traveled as well as modern parking standards, establishing new zone districts and standards to encourage multifamily housing, mixed use, and modern workplace development, and supporting the development of medical facilities within the Soquel Drive area. To learn more about the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, visit the Sustainability Update Project website vision page. We also wanted to share some background regarding the code modernization effort. The county's code was adopted in the 1950s and has been amended in a piecemeal way over the years. As a result, land use regulations addressing zoning, housing, and permit requirements have become increasingly complex. There's a need to make these regulations more user-friendly In particular, in 2014, there was an identified need to update the county's development permit framework, as well as the need to modernize various agricultural regulations to reflect modern needs and practices, and meetings were held on these topics. In 2015 and 2016, the County Board of Supervisors reviewed a number of draft updates to portions of the county code related to the development permit framework, agricultural regulations, and establishment of new development standards and zone districts that had been identified in the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan. At that time, the board directed the staff to continue to work on these updates as well as additional updates that had been identified and prepare an environmental impact report. This project fulfills that direction from the board. Now I'm going to hand it over to Daisy a little bit to talk about some of the project components.
Great, thank you so much, Stephanie. So as mentioned, the sustainability update includes 4 components. First, the project will comprehensively amend the introduction, land use, and circulation elements of the general plan, incorporating a new emphasis on sustainability and integration of the vision and guiding principles, as well as the land use and transportation recommendations from the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan. The amendments also include new population, housing, and employment targets for 2040, as well as integrated strategies and policies from the various local, regional, and state plans and regulations that Stephanie mentioned. The land use element is being renamed as Built Environment and integrates the existing chapters 2 land use and 8 community design of the general plan with a focus on residential and commercial development. The circulation element of the general plan is being renamed Access and Mobility to reflect a focus on movement of people rather than movement of vehicles. The project also partially amends Chapter 5, Conservation and Open Space, renamed Agriculture, Resources, and Conservation. Changes in that chapter focus on agricultural, timber, and water and groundwater policies. The project also partially amends Chapter 7, Parks, Recreation, and Public Facilities, to be consistent with the Parks Strategic Plan and to ensure that county facilities are adequate to accommodate projected growth. Other general plan chapters will not be changed substantively, if at all. Those chapters include Chapter 4, Housing, which is scheduled to be amended in 2023, Chapter 6, Public Safety, which was amended in 2020 and is in review with the Coastal Commission, and Chapter 9, Noise, which was adopted in 2019. The second component of the project is amendments to the county code. These amendments include updates to Title 12, Building, Title 13, Planning and Zoning Regulations, and Title 18, Procedures. There are also small associated changes to Titles 5 and 15. Overall, these code amendments serve to both modernize the code and align with the changes that are being made in the general plan. The project will also include the adoption of new Santa Cruz County design guidelines. The guidelines include best practices for both building and streetscape design. The guidelines document is intended to guide design of all projects, but especially multifamily residential and commercial development in the urban area. There are also guidelines specifically for the Pleasure Point commercial corridor included as an appendix to the document. Finally, the project includes targeted land use changes and rezoning on 23 parcels located throughout the county. Please see the project website for more information about project components. So now we would like to discuss the proposed changes in a little bit more detail by topic. So these topics correspond to the project fact sheets that are available on the website. The first topic area is sustainable development. The 3 pillars of sustainability are environment, economy, and equity. Overall, the sustainability update plans for development that can accommodate the county's projected growth while maintaining and improving the environment, economy, and quality of life for those who live and work here. Like all jurisdictions, the county will grow in the next 20 years and beyond. Based on policies and regulations included in the sustainability update, the Environmental Impact Report has estimated housing and commercial growth to 2040, as shown in the table on this slide. The General Plan Built Environment element, the County Code, and the County Design Guidelines plan for this growth by applying sustainable design principles to all scales of development, from the regional scale down to the individual building and site scale. So at the regional scale, development would continue to be focused within the urban and rural services lines in order to protect the environment and open space, and growth and development would be coordinated with neighboring jurisdictions and planning agencies. The county's environmental protection regulations would remain intact. At the community scale, land use and transportation development would be coordinated and concentrated along key corridors and at activity centers. At the neighborhood scale, the sustainability update plans for services and amenities to be located within a 15-minute walk from home for urban county residents. And at the building scale, new emphasis is placed on green building and site design features, such as solar design and stormwater capture and treatment. The new design guidelines provide best practices to ensure neighborhood compatibility, encourage public gathering spaces, quality open space, and the inclusion of green building and site design features. For more information about sustainable development, please see chapters 1 and 2 of the general plan, as well as the fact sheet on sustainable development. And this slide indicates the overall focused growth strategy that I was just explaining. So growth is focused within the urban services line, which is indicated in blue. And in the unincorporated coastal urban area, you can see that growth is planned around key transportation corridors. And then outside of this urban area, the county's open space, agriculture, and rural residential lands would continue to be protected. Okay, so then on the topic of the built environment, the general plan and county code amendments focus primarily on residential and commercial development within the urban area. Policies encourage infill housing for residents of all household sizes and income levels. In particular, the county will continue to support accessory dwelling units and will also support small lot single-family home development, missing middle housing types such as duplexes and triplexes, and small townhome and apartment projects, and revised development standards such as floor area ratios, building setbacks, and height and density bonus provisions further enable multifamily development, while maintaining key provisions such as open space requirements and buffering from neighboring properties to ensure that new developments are livable and context appropriate. Also, a new residential flex multifamily zone district is created for compact housing located near key corridors and activity centers. Commercial policies encourage activity centers for employment, medical services, community gathering, and shopping and entertainment. The new Workplace Flex Zone District accommodates a variety of commercial and light industrial land uses. New development standards have been added for mixed use, residential and commercial development, as well as for hospitals and medical mixed use development, in order to address unique needs in these types of developments. Updates to allowed land uses and permit requirements in residential and commercial zone districts align with modern practice and state law. The design guidelines include overarching guidelines as well as specific guidance for multifamily, commercial, mixed use, and workplace flex developments, with special consideration to site planning, building design, open space, parking, community character, transportation corridors, and other issues. To learn more about the built environment topic area, please attend community meeting number 2, which is scheduled for 1 week from today, March 28th, and review Draft General Plan Chapter 2, County Code Chapter 1310, the design guidelines, as well as the fact sheets on housing and commercial development. And then on the topic of transportation, a new layered network approach to roadways connects communities, and supports alternative modes of transportation. In this approach, certain user types are prioritized on certain streets. Major corridors include main streets, which prioritize pedestrians, active connectors, which prioritize bicyclists and pedestrians, and multimodal corridors, which are principal arterials accommodating all transportation modes. Local residential streets provide access to urban neighborhoods, and rural connectors and mountain agricultural streets provide access to rural areas. Policies and regulations address the streetscape and the role that streetscape design plays in how connections are made in the community. Safety is also emphasized, as is technology, which is changing rapidly nowadays with innovations such as electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, app-based ride shares, shared vehicles, and micromobility options, such as electric scooters. Within the transportation policy area, coastal access policies are also strengthened, ensuring that coastal access points to recreational opportunities are maintained. Transportation policies and regulations recognize vehicle miles traveled as a way of measuring how much people are driving and as a measure of how we're doing in our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Priorities are set for future capital improvement projects. New roads and roadway projects are also proposed, which will improve the county's circulation system. The existing transportation demand management system in the county code has been significantly improved and expanded. Parking and internal site circulation standards have been updated to make sure that these requirements for various project types are right-sized. Parking standards for some types of development have been reduced in order to support smaller units and more compact development in urban areas. To learn more about the transportation topic area, please attend community meeting number 3, scheduled for April 5th, and review draft general plan chapter 3, county code chapters 1316 and 1510, design guidelines, and the transportation fact sheet. And on the topic of community services, updates to the general plan, parks, recreation, and public facilities element address the provision of community facilities and infrastructure to support existing and future populations. Services such as water, sewer, telecommunications, fire, and police must be adequate to serve not only existing people and businesses, but also new growth. Parks policies and inventories have been updated to be consistent with the recently completed Parks Strategic Plan. Also, water supply and conservation policies have been updated and consolidated, and new policies have been added that address the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act requirements. Additionally, updates to telecommunications policies address requirements related to broadband access and new technologies. To learn more about the community services topic area, please attend community meeting number 4, which is scheduled for April 12th, and review draft general plan chapter 7 and the community services fact sheet. So now I will hand it back over to Stephanie to talk about agriculture.
Thank you, Daisy. On the topic of agriculture and natural resources, the project does not make substantive changes to environmental protection standards. The general plan and the county code continue to protect agricultural, biological, and cultural and scenic resources, provide for the long-term sustainable management, conservation of water, timber, and mineral resources, and preserve open space areas. An open space inventory has been added to the general plan as required by law. Also, the boundaries of the scenic designation of Highway 1 are being adjusted to reflect the current status of scenic resources along this corridor. On agricultural land, the sustainability update allows for a broader range of land uses, including agricultural support uses such as agricultural research and development facilities, and storage of farm equipment, agritourism events such as farm stays and dinners, and on-farm education and sales. Wineries and breweries commercial weddings where secondary to a winery, brewery, or vineyard are allowed, and essential public services and utilities extensions are also allowed. New regulations include provisions to protect agricultural land and minimize adjacent impacts to adjacent properties. To learn more about the agriculture and natural resource topic areas, please attend community meeting number 4, scheduled for April 12th, and review draft plan chapter 5, county code chapters 1310 and 1650, and the agriculture and natural resources fact sheet. Environmental justice is a new topic that must be incorporated into the general plans in California, either as a separate chapter or as policies within each chapter per SB 1000 and other recent state laws. Environmental justice means equitable protection from environmental and health hazards for everyone. County staff have chosen to address this important topic throughout the general plan rather than as a specific chapter. Environmental justice policies are denoted with an EJ in the general plan. Environmental justice themes that are addressed within the new plan include pollution exposure and air quality, equitable access to safe and sanitary homes, food, transportation, and public services and facilities, physical activity opportunities, and community engagement opportunities, and improvements and programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. Disadvantaged communities are defined and mapped in the General Plan, Chapter 2. Disadvantaged communities are population groups that have disproportionately affected by environmental pollution or hazards, have high concentrations of low income, high rates of unemployment, low levels of home ownership, high rent burden, sensitive populations, or low levels of educational attainment. The county used several definitions when mapping disadvantaged communities so as to be as inclusive as possible. The county's disadvantaged communities are located primarily around Watsonville and in Live Oak, as you can see from the map on the slide. Also, additional fringe or legacy communities located in Davenport along Highway 9 and outside city borders have the potential to be defined as disadvantaged communities based on environmental and resource issues. More information is available on the Environmental Justice Fact Sheet and will be addressed in other upcoming community meetings as well. The sustainability update incorporates the code modernization effort as discussed earlier in this presentation. Updates are proposed to the county code to clarify permit requirements and reduce processing time and uncertainty, and update and modernize uses allowed in zone districts. In particular, the project would remove the unusual and unclear level 1 through 7 permit process and replace this with 2 types of permits: site development permits related to physical development of a site and use permits related to land use. This permit framework is similar to many other jurisdictions. A use approval over the counter called a zoning clearance is also proposed. In terms of code organization, the proposed amendments consolidate procedural requirements, parking requirements, and information regarding appeals of coastal permits. The code amendments also modernize and update standards for a variety of land uses, including but not limited to residential care facilities, commercial weddings and other temporary events, visitor accommodations, outdoor storage, drive-up windows, animal regulations, and agricultural support uses. Obsolete standards, such as local solar access requirements and gas station requirements, have been removed to ensure consistency with state law. Definitions have been updated to remove obsolete terms and add new terms that provide clarity as well as consistency with the general plan. To learn more about the code modernization topic area, please attend community meeting number 5, scheduled for April 20th. Review county code amendments and code modernization fact sheet. As mentioned earlier, the sustainability update also includes general plan land use map and zoning map amendments to 23 selected parcels throughout the county. There are two types of land use changes. The first type is land use amendments to eliminate inconsistencies between the general plan land use map designations and the zoning districts on 13 parcels associated with mapping areas from the 1994 general plan or before. These maps show the changes in the North County, one in Davenport, and 4 others in South County. In Mid-County, there are also 8 properties that will change to correct zoning and land use inconsistencies. These are shown on the map on the left as well. The second type of land use amendment is intended to implement the project goal of increasing housing options and help address the housing crisis. This portion of the project includes rezoning of 10 underutilized parcels, including key opportunity sites along transportation corridors. One parcel is at Soquel Drive and Thurber Lane, as shown on the map on the left, which is vacant and would be rezoned to a mix of residential flex and commercial to facilitate mixed use. The map on the right shows 9 additional parcels located along Portola Drive. These would be rezoned to residential flex to facilitate a transition in this neighborhood to a mix of multifamily residential units interspersed with neighborhood commercial, consistent with the vision for the corridor and the Pleasure Point Vision and Guiding Principles Planning Study that was done in 2018. To learn more about land use and zoning map changes, please attend community meeting number 5, scheduled for April 20th. As required by state law, the county is preparing an environmental impact report, or EIR, to analyze project impacts. The EIR will analyze all topics as required by the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Some topics that need special attention in the EIR include addressing impacts to aesthetics, agriculture, cultural resources, land use, population and housing, public services and utilities, water supply and groundwater, and transportation. This document will evaluate transportation impacts in terms of vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, as required by CEQA. Operational information in terms of level of service will also be provided for informational purposes, although these are no longer considered an impact under CEQA. The EIR is scheduled to be released by the end of the month and will be available for public comment for a minimum of 45 days as provided by CEQA. The EIR will be posted on the county's main website, and hard copies will be available at the Government Center at 701 Ocean Street and at libraries. After the comment period, a final EIR will be prepared to address any comments that were received prior to the amendments. Now, Daisy, talk a little bit about schedule and public involvement.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephanie. So we just wanted to take a moment to go over the timeline for this project. The draft general plan amendments, county code amendments, design guidelines, and map amendments were made available on the project website at the end of February and are available for public review now. You will be able to review and comment on these documents throughout the public process until the documents are adopted and certified. This evening's meeting is the second of a series of community meetings which are scheduled through April 20th. The draft EIR is scheduled to be released by the end of March and will be open for public comment per CEQA guidelines, as we mentioned. The Planning Commission, as well as other county commissions with an interest in the project, will hold study sessions in the spring and summer. After these study sessions, a final EIR will be released, which will address public comments received on the draft EIR. At the same time, updated versions of the general plan amendments, county code amendments, design guidelines, and map amendments may also be released, addressing comments on those documents received up until that point. After that, public hearings at the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors are scheduled to begin in August and be held through November of this year. After adoption at the Board of Supervisors, most amendments will need to go on to the Coastal Commission for certification in 2023. And then this slide just shows a schedule of the upcoming community meetings that we have been noting. So after tonight's presentation, which is a repeat of the introduction and overview, there will be topical meetings held on the topics of built environment and community design, transportation, agriculture, resources, and public facilities, and code modernization and map amendments. All of these meetings will be virtual. If you have access to a computer, the best way to become more familiar with this project is through the project website. From the home page, you can access project documents directly, or you can learn more about the topics we discussed today. There's also a section of the website called Get Involved, where you can read up on the latest project news and schedule, sign up to receive project emails, submit a public comment, or take the project survey. We highly encourage you to take the survey, which was just released recently, because this will be an important tool that is used by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors as they're making decisions about this project. If you do not have access to a computer, hard copies of project documents are available at the Planning Department front counter for review at 701 Ocean Street on the 4th floor, as well as at the Capitola Library. All right, so now we've left some time for questions and discussion. And we also, let's see, I wanted to check and see how many participants we have, because we have a poll that we could do before we start with the question and answer session. We're interested to know how folks who joined us today found out about the meeting. So I'm going to ask Natisha if you could help us launch that poll, and if you're able to answer questions on the poll, that would be great. So is that, can we do that, Natisha, or is that not possible?
Yes, sorry, my computer is very slow right now. Let me launch the poll.
Okay.
All right, so the poll should be coming up on your screen now. So just select your option and click submit.
Okay, so we'll give everybody a minute or two to answer the poll. And let's see, Natisha, do we have results coming in?
Yes, we do. It looks
Great.
like we've had a few responses. Maybe another minute if folks can respond to the poll. It should be available in the chat if you don't see it immediately pop up on your screen.
All right. So what are we learning? How did most people find out about us today?
Yeah, it looks like the majority were spread across the county website. Oh, yep, that looks like it's been the #1 place where people have found out about the meeting, and then also by email.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful for us to know as we are continuing to spread the word about this project. So thank you very much for answering that poll question. And now I just want to provide a little bit of information before we get into the question and answer session. So to make a comment, if you're using a computer, you may type your comment or question into the meeting or chat box, or you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol at the top of the screen, choose raise hand, and wait to be called on. When the moderator announces your name or phone number, click on the microphone button at the top of your screen to unmute yourself and start speaking. To comment, please state your name and proceed with your comment. At the end of your comment, your microphone will be muted again. If you no longer have a comment or question, just click on the hand symbol again to lower your hand. We're going to go through the questions and comments in the chat first, and then go through raised hands. And then after that, we'll ask if anyone participating on the phone would like to comment. And if you wish to provide a comment over the phone, enter *6 to unmute yourself. Let's see, and then while we talk, we have listed some links to various resources that are available to you. You can learn more about the project and review draft documents on the website, which is www.sccoplanning.com/sustainability-update. And as mentioned, through the Get Involved portion of the website, you can access the survey as well as the public comment portal. And then once the draft EIR is released, you will be able to submit comments on the EIR. Comments on the EIR will be submitted via email rather than through the comment portal, and instructions will be provided on the project website. You may also email any questions or comments to the team at sustainabilityupdate@santacruzcounty.us. And then for the tech savvy among us, you can use the QR code on this slide to gain access to the project website. Okay, so with that, I think we should go ahead and start with questions. So let's see, Annie, do we see any questions in the chat?
Thank you, Daisy. So far, we just have a comment from, I believe that's Patty Brady, who I think pointed out that we have an equal number of people who heard about the meeting through the website and through email. So I guess we've had more responses, so she just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
So far, that's the only comment we have in the chat, but people may need a little more time possibly to formulate their question.
Okay, great. Yeah, we just opened up the chat after the presentation, so feel free if you have comments or questions to provide to enter those into the chat. Okay, and it looks like we have at least one raised hand. Anis, can you, or Natisha, can you let us know who we've got there?
Yes. So it looks like we have a phone number, 707-224-3038. If you can unmute yourself, you can ask your question right now or provide your comment.
Hello?
Hi, yes.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrenner. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you very much. I have to step to a different room, so I don't have the computer screen in front of me, and I'm not able to see what you've presented to the public meeting tonight, but I did watch the video of last week's presentation. So thank you very much for video recording that meeting and all of the others. I have a lot of comments. First of all, I did take a moment to look at the survey, and it is very, very long. I think most people would get discouraged and not even do it. So I think there needs to be maybe segments. The survey could be broken into segments according to interest level, and you know, this is a huge amount of information. People will not be able to cogently respond to the survey until they've read the whole document, essentially. So I think releasing it in pieces would maybe be something that more people would have time and encouragement, if you will, to really complete it, because it is information that you and the Board of Supervisors will rely upon, so you want good, clear information from the public that is informed. I have some questions. You know, that the residential flex, 45 units an acre, what does that look like? How can people get an idea of what that would actually look like in their communities? And that's what this document doesn't really relay to the reader. What does 45 units per acre look like? Give us an idea by showing a picture of one of the more dense developments that has been built maybe that's the Aptos Village Project Phase 1. What is the units per acre there? Using that as an example so that people have an idea what this would look like. I think there needs to be more photos of existing places that people are familiar with and that are labeled for their location in order to give people a better idea of what these words really translate to on the ground, because it's a lot of verbiage that people who are maybe not familiar with planning process, planning language, it's going to be useless, quite frankly. So please make it user-friendly, and that can be done with some good photos that are well labeled. The maps in the figures are not at all helpful. Figure 2.4, you cannot see where those areas of high density are. That's a useless map, but could be very important to someone who may now be in a work flex zone or something that is going to get big changes in their neighborhood. This map doesn't relay that at all. So I think dividing the maps into smaller areas and blowing them up and giving well-labeled streets that people can relate to and recognize, clearly labeled and easy to read. The print is very, very small if it is on there now. I want to point out something that that really is going to help you get people's attention. If you look on page 10, it shows a photo of what Seacliff Village looks like now. Manuel's Restaurant, everybody loves. Marianne's Ice Cream, everybody loves. Then take a look at the image on page 57 that shows what this plan would do to Seacliff Village. That needs to be juxtaposed so that people really see what we're talking about here. Words are meaningless when people cannot see what will happen if this goes through. Words will be meaningless to these people without being able to really see an example. And, you know, this can go back again to my original comment of what does 45 dwelling units per acre look like? On that topic, I noted that the number of dwelling units scheduled for the mid-county area is very, very large. It's almost 3,900, I think. I'm going from memory here. I've stepped away from the computer. But 3,900 new residential dwelling units in the mid-county alone. When the North County is something like around 400, and South County is also about that number. There's no explanation for that. And there's no way to understand the words translating into that until you see an example of this high density, very high building that is being considered for the purple areas of the map. Again, very difficult to read. And I believe that's on page 14 of the built environment. There's no way to interpret that. There really needs to be some well-identified photos, and those two, existing and planned images of Seacliff Village alone really need to be out there so people understand. Let's see. What some other issues, I mean, people don't understand what's coming down the pike. For example, who would know if, unless they jumped in and saw that these county codes would instill a new large dwelling site development permit? What does that mean? How much would that cost? Things like that will affect people's lives directly in how they're going to use their land, what their neighbors are being able to do, things like that. How will, you mentioned that there will now go to 2 types of permits. what is that process going to look like? And forgive me, I wasn't able to read all of that, but I saw that I heard you say that, but tell us more. What is that process going to look like? Is there going to be additional costs? How will this help the people who are planning to come in and do development or redevelopment in areas, especially if it's a dense area? There's no way to know. Again, going to the some of the existing figure 2-14 around the airport on page 98, there is no information at all on that map, that figure, in terms of scale, in terms of how big of an area the dashed airport influence is. And there are some very odd little islands that seem to be a favor, if you will, to a developer or something, because they're not included in the airport influence zone when areas all around them are. I look forward to the EIR. I'm a little curious why it has not been released concurrently with all of this good information, so that we could also be discussing and understanding that better. I'd like to know if there will be parallel meetings in the future regarding the EIR, because those are enormous documents unto themselves. I'm curious to know about the parcels that will be rezoned that are determined by someone to be underused. Who is making that determination, and what will the process be for rezoning them be? So I think that concludes my questions and comments. I really want to thank you for having these meetings and having them weekly, and I look forward to hearing more about the breakout zone areas of your development, and appreciate there are hard copies available at the Capitola Library. I would much prefer that the hard copy available at the county planning desk be moved to the downtown library, because that facility is open more to the public, and putting it on a small table there with some sort of questions, maybe photos of these juxtaposed Sea Cliff Village planning changes would help pique the public's interest if they understood that this is something very big changes coming to our county, and they need to get involved now. Thank you for including a strikeout underlined copy of the code changes, but I request that the changes be in red so that they are more easily discernible to people who are skimming, and better able to read where those changes are. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Becky, for those thorough comments. We really appreciate your thoughtful insights here. And, you know, maybe I'll kick us off on answering some of these questions and hand it over to Stephanie. I think one thing I would say is, you know, this is, you know, the beginning of the community meetings and the public process for the sustainability update. So we look forward to a lot more community engagement and a lot more opportunity for public comments. Regarding some of the specific questions about, for instance, the residential flex zone district, and what does 45 units per acre look like, that is something that we can really get into at next Monday's meeting on the built environment element. We can really talk about, you know, what that looks like, what kind of other projects with that type of density may look like, what's been done in other jurisdictions, that kind of thing. And the design guidelines, especially the multifamily design guidelines do provide a lot of photographs of examples from our community and then also other communities of multifamily developments at various densities and best practices and ways to deal with neighborhood transitions between higher and lower density projects and all of those kinds of things. Similarly, the question about the site development permit will be explored in a lot more detail at meeting number 5, which will be focused on code modernization as well as the map amendments. So I'd encourage you to attend that meeting as well to learn more about that. And then one other thing I would say is, regarding the airport. So we aren't making any changes to the airport influence area as part of this project. That is an existing part of the general plan. That's just getting an updated map as part of this update. So we can take a look at that figure, and thank you for that comment, and to kind of make sure that it looks clearer and is easier to understand. And then I think with that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie. Do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Daisy. No, you covered most of what I was going to add. One thing maybe to note as people are reviewing the documents, the built environment element and the access and mobility element have been revised considerably. However, there are many policies and aspects, such as the airport influence area that Becky and Daisy were mentioning, that are carried over, and so there aren't changes. And it's a little bit hard to discern that with those two documents because they're not in underline and strike through, because there were just too much reorganization and too many changes to make it comprehensible. In all of the other documents, there's underline and strike through. It's a little bit clearer. And the countywide design guidelines, those are brand new, developed by our design firm partners at MIG. So no underline strike through there. But as Daisy mentioned, I definitely encourage you and others to attend one of the community meetings we have scheduled that will be able to delve a little bit more into some of these topics. So I appreciate knowing where those areas are for you. Thank you. Anise, do we have another person with their hand up?
Yeah, I think Patricia 2 at packbell.net.
Patty Brady.
Great.
Welcome.
Hi, I have just a quick question regarding the 45 units per acre. And I realize that you'll probably get into it next Monday, but if you could clarify it now, I'd appreciate it. Does that include affordable bonuses on top of the 45, or does it include them within the 45? What is the actual proposal?
The new residential flex zone allows a range of density from 22 units per acre to 45 units per acre. There still are density bonuses, so I think it's possible you could go higher than that, but most of the development that we see is constrained by other things, such as meeting setbacks or meeting parking standards or having to meet height and other standards. So floor area ratio, for instance, or lot coverage, so that it'd be very, I think it'd be very challenging to get all the way up to the highest density, but it will help us utilize our lands in the urban area a little bit better than we have been, so that we can kind of continue to protect some of the sensitive areas and other resources. So when you're thinking about high density and 45 units per acre, definitely encourage all of us to look at the county design guidelines to see what that might look like. 3 stories, 4 or 35 feet or 40 feet, and looking at all those standards to see how they kind of work together. So I want to encourage everybody to make sure that you kind of understand all of the things that go into any development, and not to be too concerned about those numbers. Within that, the county design guidelines really look at massing and building bulk. So those are really intended to be smaller units that would be used for workforce housing or students or seniors. So the bulk is controlled with other codes, other policies, the design guidelines, while the that density number really lets you know you might be able to get more units, but how big are they going to be? And those other documents really control for those impacts. So I don't know, Daisy, do you want to add to that a little bit?
Well, could I interject?
Sure.
First of all, I didn't see the 22 to 45. I only saw 45 in the maximum density. And I have to say here that maybe some clarity would be helpful so that some of us don't get high blood pressure. From the standpoint of explaining that it is contingent on other elements versus assuming that everybody knows that.
Right. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for all the time and the presentation. It's been very interesting.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for your interest and engagement. Yeah. And the only other thing I was going to say is, regarding application of the residential flex zone district on specific parcels, and then development projects that would occur on those parcels. So rezoning parcels to residential flex is one issue, but then in the future, there may be actual development projects that are proposed on those parcels, and those development projects would need to be evaluated for use permits and site development permits, and they would need to go through public hearing process in order to be approved. And we staff would need to be able to make findings that those projects are consistent with the neighborhood, that they're consistent with the general plan and all of our zone standards, and there would be environmental review involved as well. So introducing the zone district with a higher density is not immediately, allowing for this development to occur on specific parcels. That would still be a project by project process. Okay. All right. Anyone else would like to make a question or make comment or ask a question?
I believe we've received a comment from the raised hand that's currently up. So maybe if Annie can check the chat for any questions at this time for folks who haven't had a chance to ask a question or provide a comment yet.
Yes, I've been monitoring the chat, and there's only a request that I replied to that's not really a general question. So there aren't really any other questions in the chat right now.
Okay.
All right, then the 707 number, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or provide your comment right now.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me ask some more questions. No one addressed my comments regarding the survey, so I do hope that you will take a look at the survey from a public perspective. It is too long, and I think it would be better more informative if chunks of it were presented after the corresponding public meeting that is those that are coming up. I want to know why there's no development shown at all, density along the rail corridor. It is all along Soquel Drive, and from Freedom Boulevard to Santa Cruz. why was there no development considered, or appears to be no development considered along the rail corridor, which is definitely a transportation option for dense development in that area? So if you could speak to that, I would appreciate it. I also did not see any discussion about Measure J, and that came up when I heard Ms. Brady's comments about bonus for affordable and things. How do the new changes affect Measure J's requirement that 15% at least be deeded for affordable housing? In the document overview that I read after looking at your video of last week's meeting, there was discussion in there about annexation in Watsonville, but I don't, maybe you can help me see where in Watsonville those potential annexations would be. And likewise, where is a list of the parcels? I think you said there were 23 or 26 parcels, 8 of them in the mid-county alone, that will be rezoned as underutilized or whatever. Where can I see a list of those parcels that have been identified for being rezoned? Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Becky. And I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to start us off and jump in?
Sure. Yeah, on the survey, it's designed by topic. You don't have to go through every topic if you don't want to. If public services is of interest to you and you have comments related to that, you can jump to that section. So I just wanted to be clear that it's designed to have some flexibility there. You can do all of it, some of it, or you can jump around. For rezones along the rail corridor, I need to back up a little bit to provide a good answer on this one. So this project is all about the policy and regulatory updates for our future. Wasn't so much about the rezoning of specific parcels. However, we did look at many opportunity sites, particularly as we were thinking about what the estimated potential development might look like in the next 20 years, because it is a 20-year plan, which is really important. In the end, we did some very targeted rezoning of some sites. However, once this project is done, we're going to move right on to updating our housing element and meeting our regional housing need assessment goals. So the state and the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments determines how many housing units a particular jurisdiction needs to zone for in the next, I think it's an eight-year period. And so we're going to be taking another crack at the rezoning of properties, because we will have to, in order to meet our regional housing needs allocation, which is liable to be 2 to 3 times higher than it was the last go round in the 5th cycle. So while we're setting the policy and regulatory stage here, we will be taking another look at where, along what corridors, including the rail corridor, it may make sense to provide some more opportunities for housing and mixed-use development. On annexation in Watsonville, there's an existing memorandum of understanding that had to do with the construction of the high school, and I think that those are the policies. Those are all existing policies. This plan does not treat the areas around Watsonville any different than others. And we recognize that a lot of properties around the cities are part of their spheres of influence, and annexations may occur. I'm not sure if we have a list of the rezones on the website. Maybe Daisy is aware, but the maps are available, and for each property, there's a call out that shows you what the general plan, land use map, or rezoning is for those properties. And then along Portola Drive, there's a focused map that with a table that shows those properties as well. So Daisy, did you want to add to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I would just add regarding the parcels that are being rezoned or proposed for rezoning or proposed for new land use designations. There is also hard copy maps available showing those areas. And I don't know if we have a list on the website, but we can put that on there. And that would be really helpful. So thank you for pointing that out. If it's not there, we will add that. That's certainly something that we do have that we can provide for the public. And then there was one other question you had, which was about Measure J. This project would not make any changes to Measure J. So the existing, affordable housing, inclusionary housing requirements that we have for ownership projects would be in place. As well as the affordable housing or in lieu fee requirements for rental projects. So there would be no change there. And I hope that answers your question. Let's see, is there anybody else would like to make a comment or ask a question? Okay. All right, I see Becky has her hand up again. Yeah, we can take another question from you, Becky. One more question.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbruner again. Thank you for letting me
sure.
continue
it's not
to
a public
ask questions.
Hearing.
I appreciate it, and because I'm on the phone, I don't know how many other people you have there. It looked like there was virtually no one at the other one, so I'm hoping the turnout is better. And I want to take the opportunity to thank you for the outreach that you're doing. I know it's really hard to get people's attention, but again, those photos of Seacliff Village side by side is going to get people awake. So my question and my final one, thank you very much, is that it's required that new development show that there is adequate water. How will that be determined? You did mention the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, but the basin in the Mid-County is not out of a state of critical overdraft according to the State Water Quality Resources or Drinking Water Control Board. How will that be determined? And will that be left to the water agencies themselves? It is already a problem that people are given, in some cases, building permits, and they go to the water agency, such as Soquel Creek Water District, and are told that until recently they just started selling them at $55,000 an acre foot of intended demand increase. But before that, people actually had to go out and find toilet fixtures to replace before they could be given permission to hook up to the water system. Now, this is the Mid-County that is in alleged critical overdraft, and it is the Mid-County area that is going to take the brunt, according to the maps that I see, of the dense infill. In the next 20 years, almost 4,000 new dwelling units and commercial, significant commercial. So I hope that you can discuss, and I think that will come in a later meeting, but for now, so that you can help me understand exactly where to go to read more about this, how will that process look in the future? It's not working so well now, and water is an increasing concern, as is wildfire protection, and the water too, to have available for fire suppression. So where can I go to learn more about that, and how does the county, if at all, make any changes to this portion of the land use and permitting process? Thank you. I promise that's my last question. Thank you. You've been very kind.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbrenner. Well, first of all, when the EIR is out, I would recommend having a look at that because it'll have a detailed analysis of all of the groundwater and water availability in the county by each of the water districts. In the general plan, there are water conservation and other types of water-related policies in the parks and public recreation and public facilities element that I would recommend looking at. I will say that this project does not revamp the permitting system in terms of the other water districts and whether they will issue certificates of availability for water. So it's a little bit outside of the scope of this project, but I will say that the project is intended to focus the county's future potential growth within the urban areas where there are services available. It's a really important focus of this project, so that we are not having sprawl in our more rural areas and our areas that are more sensitive to groundwater protection. So those are some ideas, and I don't know if Annie, if you'd want to add a little bit to that or not.
I can just add to your comment that in general, the more focused compact development also use less water per household, so that should also help in terms of using less water overall for new development.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there'll be more information about water at, let's see, I believe it's meeting number 4 on April 12th as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Any other questions? Don't see any other hands. Any questions in the chat? I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't think we have any new questions in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We know it's a large project. We really encourage you to explore it on the project website, which is the best way to do that. And if you have further comments, there is a public comment portal on the website. You can that'll be open and available through the all the while that the drafts are out for public review. And go ahead and take all or a portion of the survey as you feel comfortable with. And if you have any further questions that staff can help you with along the way, feel free to email staff at the project email that is shown on the screen. So, yep.
I have a late coming chat question, which is, will the survey results be made public?
Yes, definitely. They will. We actually are getting a lot of great responses on the survey. I think we had maybe around 50 this morning. So we will make them public. I'm just not sure when or how, but I would definitely say to keep an eye on the project website, because it's likely we would post anything there. And of course, we'll make them available during the public hearings as well. Okay. Any last items, Daisy? You want to add anything before we end here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, except that the survey will be a useful tool that we'll look at as we prepare for the study sessions that we'll be holding with the Planning Commission. So that'll be the next step on this project after these community meetings. So if they're not results posted before then, by the time we get to those study sessions later this spring or early summer, that's when you'll start for sure seeing results from the survey.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. We know people's lives are busy and everybody has a lot on their plate, so we certainly appreciate your attention tonight and encourage you to join us at the upcoming community meetings on the various topics. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.